welcome everyone. This is 2:30. It is question time. We are live. This is the very last time that you will be seeing us coming from our homes. We're very excited that we've all gone and got the jab, and we will be able to be back in the office on deck, finally getting back to business properly from Monday next week. So that is very exciting. For those of you that live in Melbourne, I'm sure you'll be equally as excited as we are to know that you can finally get back to what you love doing, seeing people, and actually having those interactions. So that's very, very exciting. However, enough on that. We've got an action-packed session for today. So welcome everyone. Those of you on Facebook, welcome as well. Those of you on Zoom, you've got a treat in store. Start throwing your questions in because we've got a lot of interesting stuff to cover. And I want to try and get it all in as much as possible before we run out of time. So it's very, very exciting today. As I said, with a lot to go through. So buckle in, hopefully focus. We will go for about 40 minutes. So try and turn your phone on silent and really just focus to get the most out of today's session. So that's it. It's go time. Let's get into it. To start you off and warm you up, I want to know from everyone out there, I want to ask you a question. What's more important? What do you think is going to win the day? Information or knowledge? So this is mainly for anyone who's new. A lot of you on Facebook, I'm sure, are new. I've seen just here on my screen a lot of new names on Zoom as well. So I want you to think. I'll give you a few more seconds. What's going to win the day? Information or knowledge? All right, time is up. The answer is knowledge. So the reason I asked this question is this really frames what we're going to be doing today. And as you can imagine, if we go back 20 years ago, information was really, really important because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have real-time information. So, we really relied on that newspaper that came out once a day and perhaps the 7 p.m. news on TV from only 3 stations. Today, there is a ton of information out there. In fact, there is too much information, and a lot of the information is total rubbish. So that is why knowledge has become even more important, because you need to be able to take that information, which is organized data about something, and turn it into knowledge so that you can actually use that. Now, how do you do it? Well, you're going to generally do that through either experience or education or a combination of the both. So that's what today is all about, is trying to take all of that information that's out there, whether you get it off social media, you get it from Google, you get it from the TV, you get it from your taxi driver, you get it from your neighbor, newspapers, magazines, doctors, whoever it is to give you a system and an understanding as to how to get through and cut through what is important to you and what's not important, and turn that into knowledge for yourself. And most importantly, so that you can set yourself up so you know what you should be doing to take advantage of certain things when they occur, and when you should be being defensive and when you should be playing offense. So no different to those of you that love sport. It'd be very important to understand the moves of the team, what the other team's doing, be able to read those plays and then turn it back out there. So that's very much the same, and that's how you get the most out of the whole home ownership journey that you're going on. So me, of course, a little bit about myself. It didn't all start like this. That looks great. Yes, I've got a home. Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, I love spending time there, but it didn't start like that. It didn't just fall into my lap. Like a lot of you on the phone, I understand what it's like to be homeless, to be going from place to place, to not be able to afford the rent, to have the landlord kick you out, to have your housemates kick you out, to find that you've been paying your share of the rent and your housemates haven't, and then to get evicted, to be constantly moving and never having that place of home. I did that for years and years and years. Today, very different story. I now own multiple homes. I have my own home and I have a number of investment properties and generate a significant amount of passive rental income from that. So, I tell you this story because I really want to let you know, I understand, I bring 2 things to the table today. One is experience. I've gone through that journey. I understand what it's like when you're at the start of that journey and you can't even see how you're going to have enough money to afford to be able to eat, let alone think about saving to buy a home, right through to, buying your first investment property, buying a second and having a number of investment properties and thinking how to optimize that portfolio. So I've been through that. I've got the experience. The other thing that I bring is that I'm also a qualified accountant. So I understand numbers. I know how to be able to separate the emotional purchases, the emotional considerations from some key financial ones and have that right balance through that experience, as I said. So, today is very much all about you. And it doesn't matter where you are in that journey. Today will help you. So as I said, perhaps you're a first home buyer. Perhaps you're just moving out of home for the first time and looking just to rent a property on your own. Or you may be looking to get your next home, or you may be an investor buying your first investment property, your second, your third, or whatever it is. Wherever you are on that journey, today is about you, and there'll be plenty for everyone on here. And very much, we are dictated by you that gets involved. It's up to you guys to drive the process today. The more that you get involved, the more that you're going to get out of it. So I want to just break down so you understand, so you know when to focus and when we're really drilling into certain things. So today we're going to go for, as I said, about 35 or so minutes from now. First up is we're going to do the information portion. So like I said, I'm going to give you a ton of information. I'm going to highlight some of the key things that we've seen happening in the last 7 days. That'll go for about 5 minutes. Then we're going to move into the main section, the knowledge part of today's session. So as I said, the knowledge is breaking down all of that information. That's where we're going to be taking all of your questions live. So if you haven't already, jump in the Q&A, get them in there so that you're top of the queue, and so you can make sure that you have the best opportunity for us to answer them live. And we'll be going through anything you've got. We use, I guess, the information of the last 7 days as a framework, because obviously this is live, it's always fresh, it's new, it's very relevant. So this is not pre-recorded, this is not pre-rehearsed, this is very much just, we're flying by the seat of our pants in this knowledge portion. Whatever you guys ask is what we'll be drilling into and talking about. So, get in there, and that's where you will really be able to leverage all of the experience of all of us that are here. So me and my team that are on the line today will be answering all of those questions. We've got people that are also in the Q&A. So if we don't get to your question live, they'll also try and answer it in that Q&A. So don't stress about that. As well as if we do get to the end, we haven't had a chance to answer either through direct on the Q&A or answering it live as we're talking, we will get back to you after today's session. Those of you that are on Facebook, feel free to drop some questions in the comments. We won't be able to attend to those live. We will obviously respond to you there. Alternatively, feel free to join us for all of the action here live on Zoom. So as I said, that'll go for about 25 minutes. And then lastly, I want to just talk about that information, that knowledge, you've put it all together, and where do you go from there? So, those of you that are thinking, okay, this is great, I'm going to show you the next logical step and the pathway, as I said, wherever you are on that ladder in terms of the success path you're on, whether you're starting right at the start to buy your first home or you've got multiple investment properties, I'm going to suggest to you what the next logical step for you is based on what we've been discussing today. And so, as I said, we should hopefully have you out of here by about 3:10. So if everyone's ready, let's get stuck into it. This is the information section. It's 5 minutes. It's going to be fast. You don't need to take notes because we will circle back on it. But feel free to write anything down. As I said, you can jump in the Q&A if you want. Okay. So what have I seen happening around the countryside this week? There were 5 key things that I saw happening that were of real interest. First home buyers. As I said, there's a lot of first home buyers out there. I know a lot of you on the call today are there. We can talk through some of the key mistakes perhaps that people are doing and how you can avoid those. Getting a home loan. It's very, very topical at the moment. Everyone's out there stressing. It's more than just what you earn in your salary. Inner city supply. Those of you that are investors will know that if you own in inner city Melbourne or Sydney, it hasn't been a great 18 months. We have had effectively a second dip, particularly here in Melbourne. We had our second wave last year. We thought we were on the up and we've gone down again. We're going to tell you why or what you should be expecting over the next 12 months. House prices are still going totally bonkers and bananas. I'm going to go through the auction results in a moment. We're going to talk through what you should be looking out there for. And then lastly, APRA's changes. We've talked about that a lot. What are we actually now seeing on the ground and what should you be keeping an eye out for, whether there's an opportunity or a trap for you, depending on where you are in that journey. So that's what I've seen happening around the countryside. As I said, I'll use that as a framework for today, but obviously feel free to ask any questions that you've got. Okay, this last weekend just gone, what do we see in auction results? Another stellar results. We had 81% was the national clearance rate, so very, very strong. I'm just going to share this screen. I did have a few comments from people of late that they wanted to actually see these stats up on the big screen. So bear with me a moment and hopefully this will share okay. Just give me a thumbs up, Greg. That's shared okay? All right, great. So you probably can't see me now, but down the bottom over to the left, you'll see 81% was the national clearance rate. From the second busiest week that we've had, there was just over 3,000 homes nationally taken to auction. So very, very strong result. Melbourne, again, doing almost 50% of that heavy lifting. As I said, we're catching up over the last 3 months when we were banned from leaving our homes or inspecting real estate at all. So really, really good, strong result. Sydney, you can see, was only 27 homes being sold on the weekend below it being a Super Saturday. They expect to crack that this weekend. So, really, really strong. And as you can see, capital cities, everyone was in the 80s. So I believe this is the first time that we've seen for a long, long time that every single city, aside from Perth and Tasmania, was 80% or above. So Sydney, 80.8, Melbourne, 80.1, Brisbane, 80.2, Adelaide, 90.5, Canberra, 87.2, for a national average of 81%. So really, really strong results, and good to see those coming through there. Now, there's something that I always talk about that's important when we are looking at those results is to understand, what kind of a base are you working from? So there's some new statistics that have been published now by realestate.com that talk about the volume of sales that are occurring. Now, bear in mind, this is just realestate.com's data. So it is not the entire country, but they are the largest listing platform in the country. And you would find very few people would not list their home for sale on this platform. So I think it covers pretty much the entire market. But really what we're looking for here is the trends. So what you can see in this graph here is the red line is 2021, how we're tracking. This is week 40, so a couple of weeks ago. You can see we had just under 7,000 homes transacted in 1 week. So that's a huge number of homes happening, obviously nationally, right across Australia, but very much focused in the 2 key markets of Melbourne and Sydney. The key thing to have a look here is you can see the blue line was last year and the grey line was 2019. So, despite the fact that the last 2 years, being 2021 and 2020, we've been in the middle of this pandemic, we've been closed, we've been open, we've been closed, we've been open, non-stop like that, we have still seen a stellar result when we compare it to 2019 in number of the transactions. If we have a look state by state, you'll actually see nationally, we're almost 50% up in terms of the volume of transactions that have occurred this year compared to last. Now, the reason why that's really important is that when you look at some of these results, particularly auction results, they can be skewed if there isn't that many homes happening. You look at price data, it can be somewhat, perhaps not quite so truthful if there isn't enough data behind it. So it's really good to see these stats to see that, the prices that we're seeing, the clearance rates that we're seeing is from a huge amount of transactions. Really, really pleasingly, obviously, Victoria, you can see there, just under Northern Territory, which has got the highest increase, but Victoria, 61% up on last year. Now, that's to be expected. 2020, pretty much there was the rest of Australia and Victoria who was in Corona crisis for much of 2020. So obviously that's to be expected, but you can see right across the country, very much up in volume. So these are really, really important statistics to take together when we look at those auction results. Remember, again, this is about turning that information into knowledge. So, if we're not seeing this level of transactions, then perhaps what we're seeing on these clearance rates isn't as important as perhaps it might otherwise be. So you get to see my lovely face again. All right, now hopefully that made a difference. For those of you that did say you wanted to be able to drill in and see better, just throw it in the comments wherever it is. If you're on Facebook or if you're on Zoom, drop it in the chat or Q&A or wherever, and just let me know if that was a better experience. I'm always happy to try to provide more transparency into anything that anyone would like. So that's it with the information section. That was fast. There was a lot of information there. Take your notes, get your questions in, because in about a minute's time, we're going to be jumping straight into it, and we are not going to stop. It is going to be rapid fire. For those of you that really want to get value out of today, do a couple of things. Grab your phone now. Make sure you put it on silent. Put it face down so you can't see what's going on, and focus. Give me the next 20 minutes, and I guarantee that you will leave here today with a few gold nuggets and feeling much, much better prepared to go on and take it on the world wherever you are in that journey. So before we jump in, to give you a moment to throw your questions in, who am I? For those of you that I haven't met before, my name is James Maitland. I'm the General Manager here at Salvo. I've been helping people create homes for more than 20 years, and I've helped create more than 11,500 homes for people just like you on the call today. So I have done a lot of it. I've done it myself personally. As I said, I currently have 12 investment properties, including my own home, and I've helped create more than 11,500 homes. So I know what we're doing. On the panel, we've got equally as experienced, if not more experienced people. So you've got Greg Arbeck, Jack Gian, and Lucas Karras. This is my team. These guys have been doing it for decades and decades as well. They're on the ground. They've got the finger on the pulse. So very, very lucky to have them, answering all of your questions and giving you that firsthand insight into what's going on. So how do you ask a question? I've been telling you over and over, stick it in the Q&A. It's really simple. If you're brave and you want to come on live, feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you and put your camera on, and you can come up onto the virtual stage and ask your question. Don't be scared if you don't want to. It's been a long time since we've had anyone brave enough to do that. So that's it. We're now moving, as I said, focus. This will be it. 20 minutes. It's going to be fast and hard, your questions. I've seen a few coming up on the screen. I want to start with house prices. It's the favorite topic of everyone. We've been saying the market's been going crazy, but I thought it'd be good if someone can perhaps give our listeners on the line today some actual real life examples of what's happening out there in the market, and when we just talk in statistics, sometimes it gets lost. So if someone's got a few, real life examples or stories they could share with everyone on the line, I think that would be really, really useful and insightful.
Hi, James. As you mentioned, we had the biggest auction weekend since basically autumn last year, with over 80% clearance, and properties were listed and sold on the same day within hours. So it's really crazy market out there. I do have an example to give you as well. There was a 3-bedroom terrace in Carlton that sold for $4.85 million, and that was $750,000 above the reserve price. We are seeing there are 4 active buyers per auction property. This is a record high. We've never had this much. So there's a lot of buyers that are there, lots of money out there, but relatively little on the market, and that's what's pushing the prices up.
So 750,000 up to 4 odd mil. That's what, 25% over where the agent expected it to hit. I mean, that's a big number. And I think too, as Lucas was saying, going back to what I was touching on, at least 4 people registered to bid for every single auction is showing that the demand is still outweighing the supply that's out there.
The data is showing us, James, that in the last 4 to 5 weeks, prices have increased as much as 5 to 10%.
Crazy, isn't it? Now, one of my favorite sayings, all that glitters is not gold. I'm sure this is not happening everywhere. So perhaps, enlighten everyone as well. Where are some of the areas that perhaps are not doing so well, or even some areas where perhaps it's slowed right down or even potentially gone backwards?
Yes, James, we are seeing that there's a number of areas that prices have not only just stabilized, but even falling. The areas that people at the beginning of the pandemic were very happy to move, a couple of hours out of the CBD. Now we're seeing that those places, the prices have stabilized or even dropped. Even house and land packages, as numbers now becoming more and more available, we see those prices coming down, dropping. Surprisingly for many people, you expected apartments to be the first to suffer, and especially in an area where apartments got the high-rise precincts, such Melbourne CBD. But we're seeing that the prices have not dropped at all in the apartments.
So, perhaps we're not seeing huge growth, but I guess the negativity that perhaps is out there and a lot of people are getting from their information sources that, prices have died and falling through the bottom hasn't happened. And in fact, sometimes quite the opposite. We've actually found some of those, slightly a few Ks out, or some of those popular areas perhaps went too hard, too fast, and are now sort of coming down a little bit and normalizing. So I think that's probably an interesting thing that, again, remembering the theme of what we're talking about, you've got to be able to cut through that information and work out what it means for you, as well as understand the right sources. Now, I did see quite a few questions here from a number of people that were commenting on my hair, Lucas's hair. So I know we thank you all. I do feel about 10 kilos and 10 years younger and lighter, obviously with all that hair gone. So I feel good. And Lucas, good to see you also looking trim. Now, Greg, I'm sorry to say no one's mentioned your haircut, and neither for you, Jack. But I apologise to those of you that I didn't mention. So yes, thank you. It's very nice to have a haircut. All right, so a few questions I saw coming through in terms of people. And I know we discussed this last week, but perhaps it still seems to be a live topic. Talking about the APRA changes, what does it mean? What's happening? So for those of you that aren't aware, I'll just give you the 30-second summary. APRA, who is the regulator for all of the banks, basically what they did is they said to all of the banks, you now need to add 3% on top of your current interest rates to assess people's loans. So what does that mean? If you're going to go and borrow from the bank and you think, okay, my interest rate right now is 2%, they have to add 3% to it, so give you a total interest rate of 5%, and then determine your maximum borrowing capacity. So that obviously gives them that buffer that if and when interest rates do go up sometime in the future, that you can still afford those. So that went up by 0.5%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it does impact that borrowing capacity if you are trying to get the maximum amount. Now, the reason it's quite topical is, refreshing myself, 27th today. Probably could have looked on the screen behind me, 27th. So we've got 4 days left in the month. As we understand, while some of the banks have early adopted it, basically the rules don't come in until the 1st of next month. So just as we're about to hit Freedom and Melbourne Cup is when the new rules will come in. So I'm going to just sort of paraphrase here what hopefully I've seen these questions coming through. And can someone perhaps break it down between, what are we seeing on the ground, or what are the effects for buyers and then for sellers? So, everyone on the line fairly gets sort of their information into what's happening if they're a seller or what's happening for buyers.
Yes, James. I think this the new upcoming change to affect the sellers and the buyers. We've already seen the sellers, they bought forward the listing just in hope to get in the best price before the new rules kicked in by 1st of November. And for those potential buyers, they were looking to buy before. Now they are, especially for those hoping to borrow the maximum amount, also they rush to get into the market before end of October.
Okay. So, thinking forward, we've only got 4 days to go, but what's sort of your prediction? What do you think this is going to have an effect on the market in general? Or, is there anything that you're surprised about, or can you give people on the line something they're not going to read about in the newspaper, perhaps, or, something that you've thought about that you think might shock or surprise people on the line?
Yes, I think the first things we need to understand that the new rules, it seems to be like the big change, but actually it doesn't really affect the much. It doesn't really affect the majority of the people, which means it doesn't make the big difference. Why are we saying that? Because and according to the Commonwealth Bank, they are only 8% of the loan application they will plan to borrow in the maximum. So majority of the people, they're not planning to borrow the maximum of the borrow capacity. So which means even the new rules coming in will still not affect them at all. But however, we were saying this new rules is bringing more activity on the real estate market, which I said before, it's a lot of the sellers, they bought forward the listing just to try to get as many as possible the buyers before the new rules kicked in. And also the buyers, they probably maybe thinking they buy next year or they're not sure. Now they quickly just to finalize the buying because they want to borrow the maximum capacity. So it is just to bring more activity on the market. And also, as the expert, we were saying for those people, they really being affected, they were still looking to buy, but now they're looking to the lower price point property. And what that means, they were still looking to buy, but because the new rules affect the borrowing capacity, now they're looking at the property, which is the lower price point. Then we were expecting in the next couple of months or even next year, the apartment will be the most of those buyers looking to buy. So the apartment will become more popular. Then we were saying, obviously, the price for the apartment will increase dramatically.
Okay, well, there you go, everyone. You've heard it first. Jack's just called it. And I think, we have been talking about this in general, but perhaps what we're starting to see is everything converging into this logical shift that we know happens every cycle, but people struggle to see it until it's happening. And that is, the price of freestanding homes just keeps going up and up and up. And everyone has pushed their budgets as much as they can. And it comes to a point where they can no longer afford it. Layer over the top, if you are trying to max out your borrowing, that all of a sudden you've had that drop by about 5%. So you've tried to push your price, they keep going, your maximum borrowing's dropped. All of a sudden, you've got to look for something different. And what is it that we're seeing people do? Well, reality is, I know Greg talks about it a lot on here. Everyone talks about it. It's one of the key themes we always say to everyone is that, sometimes you've got to compromise, but you don't want to compromise on some of the key things like the location and so forth, which is why we're seeing apartments. We believe there's going to be a resurgence as people realize that they are one of the key things they should be looking at if they want to get into the home market. All right, so with that, that's probably a good segue because I have seen quite a few questions from first home buyers on here. And I was surprised that when I mentioned we were going to talk about mistakes that first home buyers would make, I thought that might have upset a few people, but I'm glad a lot of you on the line have been honest and said, yes, I'm worried. What should I do? What are the mistakes? I don't want to do it. So, can someone perhaps run through, when the market's hot, the weather's getting hot, we've had Freedom Day, everyone goes cuckoo and goes a bit crazy. The one place you don't want to go crazy is when you're trying to buy a home. So can someone run through, a couple of the key mistakes and or traps that people, particularly first home buyers, might fall for and how they can avoid them or manage themselves through to get the best out of the situation?
First thing, don't panic. Okay. We've been hearing all this stuff. It's the market's crazy. This is happening. Prices are going crazy. Step one, take a deep breath. As my dad would tell me, go and take a Panadol, go lie down, chill. Okay. So number one, don't panic. Now, when I get more into that, you go, Lucas's favorite thing is FOMO. So tip number one, or you want to call it tips, whatever you want to call it. Firstly, don't panic and don't get caught up in the fear of missing out trap. So when I'm talking about that, when you go to auction, we're hearing, we know there's record things are happening. All this stuff is, and you can get into a panic or get into the hype of things. When you go to an auction, have a plan. Know what you can spend, know what you're prepared to spend, and stick to that plan. Don't get caught up saying, I'm going to miss out, and put yourself under pressure. So that's a very important tip. One thing is, don't get caught up with that. And that's a big mistake some people do and get themselves into trouble. In also part of that thing is, as we hear the market, all this information, the market's going crazy. Don't get caught up in the hype. Okay, yes, it is crazy at the moment. However, as we've seen with previous peaks and stuff like that, things do start leveling off. We'll also see more vendors trying to get into that market, going, right, it's now time, let's get in there. So again, don't panic. There's going to be a thing where you can look at it, things will level out, and you just got to look at it in a sensible fashion. As you've said many times, this is one of the most important things you're buying. It's so don't panic. Another thing that people misunderstand, they get their pre-approval and they think now they can just go out and buy whatever they want. It's important that they understand that pre-approval is not that they've now got a check in their hand. Pre-approval is basically the bank assessing your ability to repay a loan. So they will say, he's got a pre-approval of X amount of dollars. That doesn't mean get out there and just go berserk and buy that, because the bank will still need to check that house out and see if it comes up to valuation in terms of that you get it. So again, just be very careful that pre-approval doesn't mean a check in the hand that you can go and buy any old piece of junk. The other thing as well, everybody goes, the house has to be perfect. And we just talked about compromise, and make sure that you do have some compromises, not with location, because we've always been very clear about that, but other things within a house. So it has to have natural light, whatever. Have some things that you are prepared to be flexible on. So you have a few keys that are deal breakers, and the rest of the things have some things that you are prepared to compromise on. And those will be the key things. So don't panic. Don't get caught up in FOMO. Don't misunderstand your approval. Understand your list of non-negotiables. And the thing that, again, the panic side of thing, linking in that the market will, it's a stabilized. Just be very careful. Be sensible when you're out there looking to buy.
Greg, you sounded so confident selling through that. When you were talking about don't panic, I was worried that you would start to panic there. That was really good. Hopefully, I think I just pinned a few questions. Johnny, Brian, Shannon, Elise, Chung. I saw more of you there. Hopefully, that's answered your questions you had there. I think that was a really, really good, clear and succinct summary of some of the mistakes and I guess more importantly, how you should navigate that if you are a first home buyer. And even if you're buying your second home, because, typically you don't, you might only buy 1, 2, maybe 3 homes in your entire life. Some people do get into investment property, which I recommend everyone does, but not everyone does. So, even if you have done this before, sometimes it can be a whole decade since you bought your last home. So unless you drive a taxi and you've been giving everyone advice, it is something still good to think about it again, have a think about what Greg said, and just really, think through those tips and thoughts to make sure that you get out there and don't make any of those mistakes that you may live to regret, because buying a home is a long-term investment. So you'd rather not make the mistake now. You'd rather take a few extra minutes just to get it right rather than rushing into it. So it's a really sound advice there. All right, one of my favorite things, and for all of you investors on the line, I've seen a few questions. I see these every week, week after week, talking about rents, vacancies, when are they going to change, what's happening. Can someone give us a bit of a quick snapshot? Inner city, rents mainly, vacancies. What are we seeing? What's happening? Where are they at?
Yes, James, I will say the good sign of the inner city market, rental market is back. Actually, I think we were talking that before. When the start of the pandemic, we've seen the rental market has shifted towards to the regional areas from the inner city. So in consequence, the inner city rental market has fallen down, especially in Melbourne and Sydney, unfortunately. But now, from start of this year, we've seen the inner city market is picking up very quickly. So we're already seeing the Sydney showing the quick recovery after the past 14 weeks lockdown. And also we're expecting there will be more positive impact as soon as the border reopen, students coming back and immigration coming back, they will start looking the accommodation, especially
so Jack,
in the city.
Just can you just bring it in tight for everyone, because I've seen a few people that perhaps are not as confident as you saying it's back. Can you bring it in tight for people? Just hit them with a few of these key things. Like, why are you so confident that it's back and we're going to hit back? I know I am, but perhaps enlighten people that are throwing some hate on you in the Q&A at the moment.
I'll give you one fact I need to point out. Do you know we have $14 billion per year, which was spending on the rent from those students, particularly around the city areas, which has been affected by the pandemic by the 50% drop in the last year. $14 billion.
So that's $7 billion worth of rental payments, just puff, gone.
Yes.
7 billion. Billion, not million, billion.
Billion. As long as those students coming back, returning to the Australian, they will start looking to the rental accommodation. We have to go back to the previous level, which means in a city area, the rental market will very quickly to be recovering. So that's the first most important things. And also, plus we all know that because the last year, the regional area, the rental market is very hot. So the rental has been increased a lot. So now those areas is become less affordable. So that's why the people, they now start looking to moving back to into this in the city. Then we will say there is no sufficient stock for them to rent. It's huge demand, but we don't really have that much stock. So this also will push the market, the rental market increase. And plus, we now at the end of the pandemic, and I think everybody needs to back into the office, back into the city. So that's another reason to bring them back from those regional area. And also the most important, I think all of us will feeling that now everybody, they're feeling more confident and they're thinking the pandemic risk has been reduced enough for them to moving back to the city. So all those things together, we believe in next year and also the rest of this year, as long as we're being free from the next week, the inner city rental market will be increased and very soon.
Okay. So if you guys didn't catch it, I'm just going to quickly paraphrase what Jack said. $7 billion worth of student rental payments disappeared. They're not going to come back overnight, but they are coming back. People were running to regional Australia. Those rents have got so expensive now that it's cheaper to come back to the city. And lastly, confidence. We all know we're feeling it. We've seen it in Sydney. They're, a few weeks ahead of us. Everyone's getting back. We've got warm weather. Christmas is coming. People are feeling good because, the nice thing about vaccination is it was a stake in the ground. It wasn't just we've eliminated corona, but it might come back. We've said this is our way to get through. It can come in. We're getting 2,000 cases a day here in Melbourne, and we don't care because we've realised we've got a pathway to freedom. We've got the confidence, and we're moving forward. So, don't despair. Remember, it is a long-term investment. And I understand, because I can see more comments coming up like crazy on my screen in the Q&A. I understand it's been tough. Don't be mistaken. I've got basically all of my properties here in Melbourne. I'm with you. I've suffered. I'm still suffering. I've had vacancies. I've had low rents. But, when we look at it in the long run and the good, strong underlying fundamentals, as Jack went through, we are starting to make that turn, for those very reasons that he said. And I think the biggest thing that Jack spoke about there, and I kind of didn't really realize this, how big that student market was. When you talk about $7 billion worth of rental payments, just gone like that overnight. They're going to come back at some point. Yes, they're going to come back a little bit slower than all going to appear, but that's going to continue to get rid of any lingering vacancy and start to push prices up as people, find there's not enough to go, and we should see things get stronger and stronger. Okay, last thing, because I can see we've already gone basically to full time of what I said we would do. So let's just close it out. I did mention that, when you're looking to borrow a home, that it is more than just your salary, how much you earn, that the banks consider. We talked about APRA and the buffer interest rate and so forth. Can someone rattle off a few of the key things? Keep it short and sharp for all the listeners today. What are some of the other things they should be thinking about that the banks do have a look at to assess whether they want to give them a loan or not?
Short and sharp, this is not. This is very important, and we need to sort of drill a little bit into it.
Look, let's do it.
Just for all our listeners out there, since the Royal Commission, banks would look at every living expenses. Many people that apply for a loan fail to disclose these expenses, so much to the point that all applicants under 35% that put applications, 53%, people up to 35 years old, 53% of all those applications were declined due to undisclosed living expenses. With credit card being the majority one, 80 to 90% of those applications were told to reduce or close their credit card. So let's drill into a couple of things. I won't go into too much detail, but things you've got to really look out for that can affect your borrowing capacity. Number one, pay later schemes like Afterpay, betting accounts, ordering food delivery like Uber Eats, Menulog, credit cards, household bills, automatic subscriptions, food boxes that get delivered on a weekly basis, phone contracts, magazines, personal loans, car loans or leases, unit debts, casual or contract employment are also looked as not stable or robust. And of course, self-employed borrowers, because they judge based on the last 2 years of income.
So I can't be a gambler.
There goes Melbourne Cup plans.
So for those of you that were trying to get in and quickly buy something, perhaps don't bet on Melbourne Cup this year. Keep it clean.
Okay, so now let's give some positive news. Let's give some tips for the people to look out for. First of all, to improve your borrowing capacity is what we refer to as preparation for application. While it is handy to have a pre-approval, first of all, and a lot of people don't know this, it's a good idea to have a pre-approval, but you don't want to obtain too many because each time you do, it marks your credit and that can work against you at the end. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, credit card limits. You need to reduce your limit or close the credit card because it's not subject to how much you own on the credit card, but how much your limit is that the bank looks at. So you might have a $10,000 credit card with only $5 owned on it. They don't look at that. They just look at the total limit. Also, transactions, like we said, sports bet, Uber Eats, all this can affect your application. So a couple of months before you apply for a loan, clean things up. Late payments on loan or overdue payments, overdue notices, outstanding payments, they can also reflect negative. So make sure all your payments are up to date. Living expenses, state the full amount and correct amount, as the bank will cross-check this with your statements. And final one is be organized, especially if you're self-employed. Self-employed need 2 last years of tax returns, and business financials, they need proof of income. Now, something that people also have to understand, that the APRA lending buffer of 0.5% increase applies to mainly all the major lenders. So if you shop around, you can obtain more borrowing from smaller institutions. And a good broker that has a wide range of lender options and knowledge will always get you the best result.
Now, the key thing that I took away from that, everyone, is I asked him to be short and sharp and he wasn't, but he gave us one saying, which I think is key: application, preparation. Just like we all do, as soon as spring hits, what do? We think we've got to get our summer body ready. And we know that takes 3 months. So I think you said about 3 months you need to get yourself in top condition. So just think about it like that. Sure, if you find the perfect home today, you might have no choice but to just jump on it. But really, you should be, planning ahead. Remember what Greg said: have a plan, understand, don't rush things. And Lucas is effectively telling us that we need about 90 days to, iron out all these things, make sure that we've got a good track record there. We're on top of it so that we're ready to go with our application. As soon as we find that home, we can hit the ground running. So I think that's the key takeaway there. If you didn't get it all, application, preparation, 3 months. Just like you do every year when you think, I'm going to look good down at the beach. For most of you, like me, you never do anything about it, but we all know we should start 90 days before summer starts. So just remember that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. We've gone way over time. I did say we would try to be done in 20 minutes. We've gone for about 25. So just before we close out, as I said to you, I just want to talk through, I've gone through the information. We've hopefully dispersed that into knowledge for all of you there. Hopefully we've answered some of your questions, but a lot of you might be thinking, well, what next? So I really want to sort of walk you through what I think should be next. Now, I've done this because we're here in 2021. It's almost 2022. Before we know it, it'll be 2023. Time flies when you're having fun or not. Time just flies. It keeps on going and going. So you really need to think about it and think about where you are now, where you want to be, and have a plan. We've talked about that just then with getting a home loan, but it's important that you understand what you're doing and move forward. So the way I see it is that you've got 3 choices today. The first one is you can do nothing. So you can log off now, you can switch off, go back to ordinary life. Don't take on board anything we've discussed. Don't think about that concept of information versus knowledge, setting yourself up, any of the tips, the gold nuggets the guys gave today's session. And that's fine, because for a lot of you, you might be doing fine and you've just joined because you're interested, you want to build your knowledge, and that's great. But what I say to those of you that are trying to get to the next step, that do want to move forward on that home ownership journey, is that if you don't make a change, don't expect to get a different result. So if you've been looking for a home for more than 6 months, 90 days, 4 months, whatever it is, that's too long, right? You should have been able to find something by now. Or you should be adjusting your plan because it's unrealistic, your expectations. So just think about that. Now, at a bare minimum, I hope that a number of you go out and you take on board what we've discussed. You think about making those changes and you go out there and do it yourself. That's what I really, really hope all of you do, right? But because I know most of you will take option 1, a few of you will take option 2, I want to give you a third and an alternate option, which is to do it with us. What do we do here at Salvo? We do a ton of different things, but it's all about helping you create a home. We're a number of different businesses. I've touched on it many times that it doesn't matter where you are in that journey, whether you're buying your first home or you've got multiple investment properties, we can help you on that journey. So because I know most of you are going to do nothing, very few of you are going to do it yourself. You'll say you will. I want you to think about doing it with us. Do the alternative path. How do you do it with us? Well, I've been able to talk to you. My team are ready to go, but none of us have actually sat down and spoken with you on the line today. So what I believe is the most logical next best step is for us to meet up and go through, what we can help you with and give you some takeaways. So it's not going to be for everyone though. Not everyone is going to be a good fit for us. I implore you to do this, but for it to work, you've got to be motivated. You've got to be confident. You've got to be prepared to actually understand the concept of moving forward, making changes, and ultimately, you've got to actually be prepared to do the work. Now, it's not hard work, not a lot of work, but you've got to be prepared to actually take action, put those plans in place, and then actually execute that plan. So if that sounds like you, and you're still on the line today, then I can guarantee that probably is you. So as I said, the best way to do it is to meet up with us. So I've set aside time in everyone's diaries over the next 5 days, dedicated just for these sessions. This is the smallest investment I can possibly ask you to make and still guarantee that you'll leave having achieved something. So I'm asking for 15 to 20 minutes of your time. You can do it in person, you can do it over the phone, you can do it on Zoom, however you would prefer to do it. It's very, very straightforward. There is no plan. You don't need to do any homework. We simply have a chat, perhaps answer some of your questions that you didn't get answered today. Perhaps you got some more personal questions, understand a little bit more about you, and then based on the little that we then get to know a bit more about you, is suggest as to which one of our businesses and perhaps which path we could assist you with in your journey. So, you know, it could be as simple as helping you refinance your current home. It might be that simple. It could be helping you rent out an investment property that you've struggled, it's been vacant for a while, or help you get a new home. It could be many of those, but that's why we need to meet up with you, to get to know a little bit more about you and hopefully give you something you can take away. But I guarantee no matter what, we'll give you actionable things that you can take with you and actually implement immediately after meeting with us. Whether you come back or not, we want you to get value out of this. So that is what we guarantee, that we will give you some value and insight into that. So if that sounds like you, how do you do it? Well, it's really, really simple. If you're on Zoom, jump into the chat and there's a link. You can book that straight away. Your web browser, when you join this session, should have redirected you to the booking page. And lastly, for those of you that aren't ready to take the step today, although I recommend you should do it immediately, we will send you a follow-up email after today's session's ended, and we'll have a link there that you can join and book one of these sessions. So think about it, do it, take that action. Now, before you go, I want to tell you a little bit about my holiday I had in July in Hamilton Island. A lot of you will probably recognize this photo. For most of you, overseas is a distant dream at the moment. So I'm sure a lot of you will be going here over Christmas time. Fantastic part of the world. Really, really great, particularly going in winter. It's nice to get some warm weather and get away from Melbourne's cold, cold winter. This is my eldest daughter. So what do we do? How did I get this photo? Well, we got there, we're having a great time. And Isabella said to me, Dad, I'd love to go and see the sunrise, climb up to the top of that mountain and watch the sunrise in the morning. So I said, of course, love to, great idea. That night, jumped on Google, had a quick look. And to my surprise, I found that the sun rises at 4:45 a.m. So, you know, one of the joys of being on holidays, most of you know, particularly if you've got young children, is being able to have a bit of a sleep in. So the last thing I really wanted to do was get up early, but I thought, no, she's excited. I turned my alarm on, put it on and rolled over and went to sleep. What felt like no more than 5 minutes later, I had that annoying beep, 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 beep of the iPhone going off. So what did I do? I did what all of you do. I saw that big fat snooze button and I hit snooze. Threw my phone down in disgust. Then about 8 or 9 minutes later, that odd timing that they do, went off again. I said, stuff this, I'm not getting up. I don't feel like it. And I hit stop and I threw my phone down. Now, I'm sure all of you can relate to that. But what I did next is what's different. About a minute later, I thought, no, I'm not going to sleep. Get up. She was excited. You know you'll enjoy it. Do it. So we threw our clothes on. We ran to the top of the mountain. We got there just in time. We got this photo. You can see the sun was just rising. And it was a fantastic experience. We had a great time, just the two of us. And this is one of those memories that, and such a great photo, I'm always going to remember. And I know that Isabella's always going to remember this and what a great time we had. So the reason I tell you this story is that, you know, it was so easy for me to do it. And I did do it initially just to say, I'll do it later, right? But I actually took the step. I took that first step. I took the action and I got this great experience. So if you do want to make those changes, you do want to get these great experiences, you need to be prepared to actually take action, do some steps and move forward. Because if you don't, then you're constantly going to be hitting the snooze button. And the problem with that is that later equals never. You've actually got to be prepared to take the action, get out there and get it done. So if you are still sitting on the fence and it wasn't enough looking at this photo, just remember, had I have sat there and said, I'll do it later, I wouldn't have got this photo. I wouldn't have this story for you and I wouldn't have this experience. So it's those people that are prepared to actually take action, move forward, that get the experiences, get to their goals, achieve what they're looking for, and move forward quicker and faster in life. So jump on, as I said, book one of those sessions because I guarantee we're only asking for 15 to 20 minutes of your time, and we guarantee that you'll walk away with something actionable that you can move forward with, and you'll be better placed had you have not done that. All right, that's it. It is now 3:24. We have gone way over time, so I apologize to those of you that had other things to do. However, if you're still here, hopefully we're delivering value. So thank you very much for all of you sticking around. From me and the panel, thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again next week, next month, whenever it is. We do this every single Wednesday at 2:30. So thank you, and we'll see you very soon.